Okay, hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about winds aloft and how to incorporate them into your flight plan. It is the third step in creating a cross-country flight plan, and I know a lot of people get confused on this, so hopefully this video will be able to help you out. Calculating winds aloft is important because it's probably the most influential part of your flight nav as far as influencing your fuel consumption, performance, and everything else. And it's also very dynamic. It's hard to visualize, at least well, a lot of things in flight training are hard to visualize, especially the magnetic variation, but at least on a sectional, you have the isogonic lines that kind of give you a visual reference. But winds aloft is more of a dynamic thing. They don't go by observations, they go by forecast. And you're always running into that chance, especially in a very dynamically changing weather situation, that you just don't know when the, how should I put this? You just don't know when the winds are going to change on you. So it can affect your flight plan, it can affect your predicted performance. It's just a lot of dynamic factors. And the best thing you can do is just to prepare for it by getting the most up-to-date predictions and incorporating them into a very solidly planned performance aircraft figure. So, anyway, I have Google Earth set up right here, and look at that monster. This is currently that freak snowstorm that's crossing over a region right now, and this is actually a pretty good model to go to predicting winds aloft. So, as you can see, one of the best things you can do about incorporating winds aloft is to try to get a very good idea of what it is going to be like. And a lot of that is just by paying attention to your weather models, seeing what your potential differences are in passages of fronts. And a lot of times it just incorporates knowing what the picture is a few days ahead of your flight, so you can have a pretty good model of what to expect. Um, a lot of times it's very hard to do a spur of the moment type flight plan when you don't even know. Um, you can have a snapshot of a weather pattern, sort of like this, but you just don't really know where is it heading, or is it like this, how fast it's moving, and it's big and it's monstrous, but it doesn't really do a whole lot as far as predicting where it's going to head. So a lot of things you can do is just pay attention to this area or the region that you're going to be flying in, and to a few days beforehand, and you can get a pretty good predictable performance. Get a pretty good idea of what the weather's going to be looking like. But anyway, I think that video is good for weather prediction. So let's just go ahead and talk about winds aloft. Okay. Now, let us say we were planning a flight plan, and we wanted to figure out how we were going to incorporate winds aloft. And I'll just go ahead and take my weather information off, and we'll stick with one of the regular paths that we've been doing. So let me just go ahead and get my little ruler tool out, and let's do the old reliable Ellington to Galveston. So here we go. Click on Ellington. We'll fly down to Galveston right there. And of course, we got I must have did a little bit different, but we got our true course here, which is 145 degrees, which that's a little different than what we had. I think I might have placed the line a little bit different. I think the line is usually up there. But okay, we'll go with that, 145 degrees. We just happen to be going 145 degrees on that one. Well, now what we're trying to figure out is what our true heading is. Now before, this line right here is known as your true course. And when you factor in your variation, we get what's known as our magnetic heading. Well, magnetic heading corrected for wind correction angle is known as true heading. And that's what we'll figure out. Well, how are we going to know what our winds aloft are? Well, you're not really going to know just looking at this. You need to go to some resources that are available. One of them is you can call the flight briefer, and he'll be able to tell you, he or she will be able to tell you what your winds aloft are. But as far as being able to get the information, I like to utilize the internet. So what I'm going to do is pop up this website right here, and this is known as aviationweather.gov. which is a pretty good website as far as being able to get your winds aloft, you can click on winds and temps on this little sidebar right here, and you click on winds and temps text right there. And when you click on it, well, I'm already on the screen, but when you click on it, you're going to get a map of the United States. And all these red dots right here, what those are known as is they're known as reporting stations. And what reporting stations are is they are just basically areas where they actually broadcast the forecast, if you will, what they expect the winds to be like over there. So what you can do is you can just pan your mouse over your area of where you're going to be flying, click it, and you'll load up the textual format. Now it's going to be a forecast, of course, and these are your times that it is going to be based off of, so make sure you pay attention to those. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for the area we're at. Well, we're in Houston, so of course you got three-letter identifiers right here. And what you want to do is you just want to go through and figure out what all these little identifiers are. If you need a resource to find out what these identifiers are, it is actually in an FAA publication, which I believe is Aviation Weather Services. And it is basically the Bible for everything weather related. And it actually has all these acronyms in here. But I just know from experience that I'm in Houston. So we'll just highlight Houston and we'll see where I'm at. Now you have these, the way they give you the winds is kind of interesting. They don't spell the whole thing out. They like to condense all the information down. So what we'll have is they'll give us our wind direction first, and what they'll do is they'll chop off the last digit. So this 34 right here is actually 340. So it's 340 at 38 knots. So what it does is it gives us our wind direction first, and then it gives us our wind speed second. Over here at 6,000 feet, it'll give you 29, so that's 290, 38 at 38 knots, and this plus 3 means it's 3 degrees Celsius over 0. So it just means plus, which is just indicates that it's a positive value, it's not a negative value. And this right here just implies that above 24,000 feet, all temperatures are going to be negative. So then you'll stop seeing the plus and the minus. But anything other than that, if it's a negative, it'll put if it's a below freezing, then it'll put a negative sign. If it's above freezing, then it'll put a positive sign. So we'll have 2749 plus 02 stands for 270 at 49 knots at 02 Celsius, at 2 degrees Celsius, and so on and so forth. So what you want to do is you want to pick your flight levels that you're going to be flying at, which let's just say for an average training flight, it is 340, or we'll do 3,000 feet. So 340 at 38 knots. And by the way, these are given in true north, reference to true north, which makes it a lot easier to plot instead of your magnetic north. So this is in reference to your true north. So 340 at 38 knots. Okay. Now, what you need to do is you need to basically figure out how you're going to incorporate that. And all that means is that as you're flying through the air, the winds are coming from the north at 38 knots at 3,000 feet. So how is that going to affect your flight path? Well, you're going to have to crab, if you will, or adjust your angle of flight to compensate for that. And in our next video, we'll talk about how you do that.